Well, most people know me as Bud, but my right name is Laurence, Laurence. Middle initial E, and the last name is Johns, Johns. I was born in Morgansville, Maryland, which is here close to Hagerstown in Washington County. And I went to school in Leitersburg and then to Hagerstown schools for middle and junior high, and then finally high school at Hagerstown High School. Graduated in 1950, just when the war started.
Ah. What is your birthday?
7/11/32.
Very good. So, you just graduated from the high school when the Korean War broke out.
That's right.
How did you know, and what did you think about it at the time?
Well, I guess we were all starting to get aware of it in high school. We kept hearing about it, but I was a farm boy, so I wasn't exposed to much all the city stuff. But anyway, when time to graduate, it wasn't long until I had to register for the draft. I was 18. And when I registered for the draft, then I realized that this thing was going to be real to me. I was going to have to make some kind of a move somewhere.
It's going to be real and really real.
Yes. So I played the odds for a while and said, maybe they won't get to me. Well, anyway, then I got my notice to go get my physical for the draft. I went and took my physical in Baltimore, took me down on a bus. It was probably one of the most humiliating things I've ever been through in my life.
Why?
I'd never been undressed in front of anybody except my mother. And there was 300 guys all parading around naked in this building in Baltimore. Anyway, I got through the physical and I decided I come home. I was already married. I come home and I told my wife, I said...
You married in the age of?
I got married when I was 20. My wife was 18. And I come home and I told her, I said, I'm not going in the Army. She said, why? I said, I'm just telling you, what I saw today was enough. I don't want no parts of the Army. I'm going somewhere else. She said, well, where are you going? I said, I don't know, but I ain't going in the Army. So anyway, as luck would have it, that next week in the newspaper...
What year are we talking about now?
That would have been 1950, early 52.
And, I mean, what did you think about the breakup of the Korean War? What did you think about it? Did you know Korea before?
No, didn't know who it was or where it was. I just knew that our country, we had just finished, I just went through World War II and grew up in high school with all the World War II stuff. And it was finally over, and here we are talking about going to war again. This time it was going to involve me, and that was different. Before it was always some of my relatives or somebody else. It didn't bother me. But now it was going to involve me. So anyway, after I come home with my physical, I said, I'm not going in the Army. She said, what are you going to do? I don't know. But anyway, as luck would have it, that week in the local newspaper was an ad that the United States Coast Guard would have a recruiting officer in our local post office the next week. So I don't know what they do. I don't know anything about them. But I know one thing. They don't fiddle in the dirt. And I'm tired of fooling in the dirt. I've been farming all my life. I'm going down to talk to him. So I went down, I talked to the guy, and of course, like all recruiting officers, everything's possible with them. Everything. It's a beautiful thing, no problem. We fix everything. Yeah, well. Anyway, I decided I'd join. I come home, told my wife, and I said, I think I'm going to enlist. So I enlisted in the Coast Guard. Well, I went back, and the guy said...
That's a 50?
52.
52, you joined?
Well, but he wouldn't take me. That's another story. He wouldn't take me. He says, you're overweight. Now, I had just finished 4 years of high school football and been a farm boy all my life. Now, I was about as good a physical shape as you could find. And I said, well, what do you mean about it? He says, you're overweight. You got to lose some weight. He says, here's what you do. You go home and you drink a glass of warm lemon juice every morning when you get up. And he says, you do that for 30 days and you come back and we'll check you again.
Can you reveal how much you weighed at the time?
Oh, yeah, 186.
That wasn't that too bad.
Oh, no, I was in excellent shape.
But why do they refuse to take you?
The Coast Guard is really particular. They have pretty
because
strict
of the
standards. I don't know who set them, but they're really particular. I mean, you just can't just walk in there.
Wow.
Yes, wow, that's right. So anyway, I went back after my 30 days, and the guy says, guess what? I said, what? He says, you lost 9 pounds. I'll take you. He says, you really want to go? I said, I don't want to go in the Army. He said, well, then come on, sign the papers here. So anyway, then they shipped me off, and the Coast Guard's a real small outfit here. I don't know if you know about it or not, but when I joined, the whole service only had about 25,000 men in it, and a few women. They were called, nobody here, hardly anybody knows what the women were called. They're called SPARS, S-P-A-R-S.
Oh, what is that?
That's the women Coast Guardmen.
What does it stand for? SPARS.
I don't know. But spar is a piece of a sailing vessel. The wood part of the mast goes off to the side. That's called a spar. And that's where, I don't know if that's how they got their name or not. But anyway, we didn't see very many of them. There wasn't very many of them. So anyway, I joined the Coast Guard, and they sent me to boot camp on my own. No bus, no nothing. Give me a bus ticket.
Where?
Cape May, New Jersey.
Oh.
Cold Spring Harbor, Cape May, New Jersey is where I went to boot camp.
Was it still 1952 or 53?
This was December 1952.
Uh-huh.
And it was cold in Cold Springs Harbor, I'll tell you.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
What do they teach you?
I went through boot camp. Now, boot camp was divided into two things. Physical, getting you ready physically, and mentally for the military etiquette and all that stuff, know about military, and teach you to march and all that kind of stuff. So I went through boot camp, and I passed my physical. The first day there, you have to take a physical. That decides what you have to do the rest of the days you're in boot camp. You have to go exercise in the afternoon if you don't pass. Well, I passed my physical first time through, and he said, you did good. He said, I'm going to give you a job. I said, what kind of a job? He said, I'm going to make you the company mailman. So all the way through boot camp, while the rest of the guys was out there marching and jumping up and down, doing all dumping jacks and all that, I'm in sorting the mail and getting the mail ready to give them to them in the evening when they come in after they've been exercising.
How lucky you are.
Yes, I was lucky. So then I went, of course, got through boot camp, graduated from boot camp, and they sent me to Norfolk, Virginia. And there I was on temporary duty. I didn't know it at the time, but I was on temporary duty in a boarding party. Now, at that time, well, they still do it. Any foreign vessel that comes into the United States waters has to be boarded by the United States Coast Guard and inspected.
Yeah.
At that time, they were inspecting them for whiskey, not drugs. This is in the 50s now. That was before drugs became a problem. So they take us out in a small boat with one officer and 5 guys, 5 enlisted men. The officer was the only one that had a sidearm, and we had a couple walkie-talkies. Load us up, have to climb up the side of a ship and get aboard a ship and then inspect the ship. And they gave you a mirror, a whistle, a flashlight, and a piece of chalk, and a screwdriver. And they start you in the berthing compartments of the ship where the crew slept, because that's where they hide everything. And you'd have to pry the sides of the walls, the partitions off, we call bulkheads on board the ship, pry the sides off, and get in there with a flashlight, and where you couldn't see, hold a mirror up and then take the flashlight and reflect light down so you could see what was behind there. And lo and behold, we'd often find bottles of whiskey in there. So anyway, that was my first assignment as a boarding party. Then I got sent to radar school in Groton, Connecticut. Now the Coast Guard has their own schools, petty officers, they're called petty officer training schools. And usually they're one of their schools is the one you're going to, but it'll cover probably 3 other categories. I went to radar school, but I was also taught radio and sonar there. Got through that, graduated.